everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips for GCSE MOCKS which might be coming up soon. As someone that was a grade 8/9 student in year 11 and someone that got 10 grade 9s and a grade 8 in my actual GCSEs, link to my GCSE results day video will be in the iCards and down in the description box if you want to check that out. I'm going to be giving you guys some advice that helped me get high grades in my GCSE MOCKS when I did them. So let's jump right in. My experience with GCSE MOCKS has been the fact that it definitely does help you mimic how actual GCSEs will be like. But also I feel like the grades that I got in GCSE MOCKS, don't think of that as the grades you'll get in your actual exam, because for me personally, I improved like at least 1 grade in all of my subjects from my MOCKS to my actual GCSEs. In fact, I remember for business I was predicted a 6/7 and I ended up getting a 9 in it. So genuinely don't think it's the end of the world if you do perform badly in MOCKS, because for your actual GCSEs you'll be much more prepared and you would have learned all the content by then, because I believe that most schools haven't learned all the content when they do MOCKS. So yeah, I would say that definitely do take MOCKS like it's your actual GCSEs, but don't be disheartened if you don't get the results that you want. Tip number 1 is arguably the most important tip because of the fact that GCSEs have so many subjects and sometimes it's so hard to keep on top of every single subject, especially before mock season where you'll have exams on them. Now, I have mentioned the batching method in a previous video, but I will tell you guys what it is now too. This is a method that I used to make my revision timetables, because even though I feel like revision timetables are hard to keep on top of, it definitely gives you a little bit of a structure and gives you an insight on what tasks you actually do need to cover. So the batching method is basically where you take all of your subjects and you place them in 3 or 4 different batches depending on how many subjects you do. So for me personally, I had 11 subjects, so I split this into 1 batch with 3 subjects and 2 batches with 4 subjects. Then what you would do is you would split up all of your days and allocate your batch to a specific day. So for example, if my first batch was English literature, maths and geography, I would just revise English, maths and geography on that day. I think this makes it so much easier to try and cover all of your subjects in a short amount of time and do active recall and learn information so that it sticks in your mind. In terms of actually choosing your batches, I would say that put subjects that aren't as similar together. So I would avoid putting physics, maths and computing and subjects like that in the same batch, because then you'll be bored of it throughout the whole day and you'll be less likely to actually finish your subjects and the tasks for those subjects. Whereas if you do subjects that are quite different to each other, you're more likely to do them because they're all quite different and it doesn't feel like you're doing the same thing all day. Subjects that I would say are quite similar are, for example, humanities and English, and they're all very essay writing and essay based related subjects. Things that are also quite similar are physics, computing, maths, engineering, anything with kind of like logic and reasoning, I would say shouldn't really go together because you might get bored of it. The batching method also works so well because let's say you have 21 days to cover everything. That gives you 7 days per batch. A whole week for each of your batch of subjects to try and cover everything, I think is quite doable. And if you think about the fact that 7 days for each subject, technically speaking, make things so much easier, because in terms of what you would do actually for each day per batch, I would say definitely go over some content, watch some videos, do any flashcards you've made, maybe make any mind maps. Also then focus your time a lot on doing like questions and past papers. Also doing some blurting as well can be really helpful. However, do be careful because the batching method can get very intense. So don't try and study very long hours, because at the same time, even though it does help you cover all of your subjects, it can be very easy to just continue studying. The second tip that I would give you guys is my foolproof method that I use not just for my mocks but any sort of topics test that I had, and this would get me 70 to 90% or more in every test that I would do. So the method itself is very simple. What I would do is I would get a website that has loads and loads of questions on a subject that I am revising. So for example, if I was revising sciences, I would get up questions from the website Physics and Maths Tutor, for example, which you may or may not have heard of, and I did mention it in my GCSE Maths video. I would highly recommend it because it's so helpful. Then I would do these questions and mark it as usual. However, what I would do is I would on a post-it note write down the exact question that I got wrong, and then the next day or in a couple of hours time I would go over each of these questions that I had initially gotten wrong and try and see if I can get the answer without looking at the mark scheme. I would then tick this question off if I got it correct exactly. Otherwise, if I didn't, then I would keep it on the post-it note and I would just repeat after I did like a study break or if I did some other subjects revision, and then come back to it to see if I can still answer those questions that I initially got wrong. This way you end up repeating the same question that you're getting wrong, which basically engraves the memory that you need for your test. And because you're doing it with questions that are available on the internet, it makes you mimic what it would be like in an exam, as if you were trying to figure out what the mark scheme would say. I would also do this with flashcards, for example, the PMT flashcards that are available online. I would do this to go over like content, for example. So any flashcard that I was getting wrong, I would put down on the post-it note the exact flashcard number that I got wrong, and I would go over this flashcard until I got it right. Tip number 3 applies more for subjects that have questions with long processes. So for example, let's say chemistry, you might need to know how the Haber process works and the limitations of it. So for example, this could definitely be a question that you can prepare in advance. And I would say that blotting this out on paper again and again can help you memorize this to its core. Also, I would do this for any required practical that you had to memorize for GCSE science. So memorizing their method, their independent, dependent control variables, I would just use a piece of paper and just try and write it again and again and blurt it out so that it gets stuck in my brain, especially on the morning of all my exams. I would do this so that it would be fresh in my short-term memory. I would also go over anything that I needed to memorize rather than try and do any other questions and learn content in the morning before my exams. Also, I would blurt out diagrams that we needed to know, so any like equipment that could come up in GCSE exams, anything that we had to draw, like symbols as well for physics, electricity. So anything that you need to memorize, blurt it over and over again. Tip number 4 is to use less of your time making notes and highlighting your textbooks or your notes, and spending more of your time doing practice questions and past papers. You may have had loads of people tell this to you, but I will say it again, genuinely speaking, making notes and highlighting this passively or highlighting the textbook doesn't actually help you with what you're trying to learn, which is why spending more of your time doing questions from online websites and resources or even your textbooks can help you so much more than making notes and spending ages of time making this. Tip number 5 is that exam technique is so important, and it's really important to time yourself as well whenever you do any sort of questions. In fact, I would even use my actual school exam clock to try and stimulate the environment even more. So what I mean by this is your school might use like a digital clock to time your exams in the hall, and I would use this exact same website to practice when I'm doing past papers. Also, definitely do some past papers, as your GCSE mocks will be likely a style of past paper questions and they will be timed and in exam conditions. So to try and get the best feel for what you will actually be doing, it's good to do some past papers beforehand so that you're not finding the whole process completely unexpected. Study skills in general are so important, and to help you ace all your exams, you can definitely start by learning how to study, and you can do this by using Skillshare, which is the sponsor of today's video. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creators, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and more. Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. There's so many classes on Skillshare, from mastering your study skills to using websites like Anki, or even on how to boost your productivity by using AI. Personally, one of my favorite YouTubers, and I also have her book, Unjaded Jade. I've been doing her Skillshare class, which is on how to learn anything science-based, and it has been very helpful so far, considering I do medicine and I did biology and chemistry A-levels. Skillshare has also announced some new exciting announcements as well. Firstly, there's also smarter class categories, and also when you do join Skillshare, they can help you tailor courses to your interests and recommend you things that you'll be interested in and want to learn about. Do you feel like sometimes studying, it can be fun if you're interested in it? Skillshare has just announced that if you do join and you're a new member to Skillshare, they'll ask you a little bit about your interests and tailor courses depending on what you're interested in. So that makes studying so much more fun, I believe. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a month free trial of Skillshare. So get started today. Anyways, that's it for all my tips, and thank you all so much for watching, and I wish you all the best for your exams.